Kept you waiting, huh?
Hello everyone, Seskinator11 here, and this is my Resident Evil 4 Professional Difficulty No Damage OSP New Game run. And this is part 3 of that run. So you can see here I'm breaking open the crates, I'm looking for some more ammo because again, our weapons don't do much damage in this run. Because there's no upgrading of them. So we're just pressing on, I'm taking a look at all my grenades, and luckily I have a healthy amount of grenades right now. We've got some flash, got some incendiaries. I have no shotgun ammo right now, and we are pressing on with Ashley as our compadre, as they say in Espanol. So now folks, you're going to be a little bit intimidated by this part, but being Resident Evil 4 and all, and how balanced this game is, they put a wonderful wagon here that you can hit with one shot, and it basically kills a good bunch of those enemies down there. If this was Resident Evil 3 Remake, there would be nothing like that. Maybe they would put 3 extra tentacle enemies there that would hit you from all the way down the hill and kill you instantly. But no, this is Resident Evil 4. This is an actual masterpiece. So, folks, this part of the game is relatively straightforward, especially with that wonderful wagon, and I was kind of surprised at how simple this was. I mean, I used the wagon, I killed a bunch of these enemies, and then moving down the hill, there seemed to be no extra enemies. So I kept moving, kept making my way through, and I was really surprised to see that no other enemies spawn. So, Ashley and I are home free, we're making our way down the hill. Gonna go back down to that underground pass, back towards the center of the village where we first started the game and we first encountered our chainsaw enemy. So folks, as we're moving through here, this is a relatively tame part, so I'm gonna go on a couple tangents. The first one is Resident Evil 4 and the many ports that it received throughout the 15 years. And one of the most upsetting ports is probably the PS4 port, and the only reason for that, folks, is because there's no platinum trophy. They didn't add an extra trophies list, any extra trophies or achievements to it. They just kept it the same as the PS3 version, which is very surprising because if you look at Resident Evil Code Veronica for the PS4, it got added a platinum. It got added a full trophy list, and they threw a platinum on there. And a lot of people are upset about this, not just me, folks. I'm especially upset about this, as you know, but I wish they would have added a platinum. This game would have been amazing to trophy hunt for, because it's actually an enjoyable game to trophy hunt for. Everything is relatively fair. There's nothing that would make you especially frustrated or pissed off. A good set of trophies would probably be, the various difficulty trophies, professional difficulty, beat it on professional once. Maybe just for kicks, throwing some no damages on bosses in there. That would be pretty fun. But they have, assignment ADA to add in there. They have separate ways that they could add trophies for. Complete those modes, and then 5-starring all the characters on mercenaries, because you need to do that in order to unlock the hand cannon. So maybe they'll have like a gold trophy on there. Again, this is all hypothetical, but if they have like a gold trophy on there that they could throw in to unlock all the weapons in the game, that would be a pretty good trophy, because you actually need to do a lot of stuff to unlock weapons. Unlike Resident Evil 3 Remake, where you can basically just grind zombie kills and then have enough points to pay for the infinite rocket launcher in the shop, rather than actually doing something that requires skill or playing the game. And that was a little close right there. I didn't even see that guy coming up towards me, but luckily I moved back, and I'm kind of channeling them through here. Yeah, folks, always be on your toes. You'll see here that I put Ashley up here in the tower because the first time I went through this section, my first attempt, Ashley decided to walk into a bear trap. And you can just imagine the forehead slapping moment that I had then, and how pissed off I was. And that was a little bit of a risk right there, because if you actually run into one of the enemies and they're on fire, you can take damage. Yeah, folks, here's me shotgunning the tentacle enemy. And because the shotgun is great in this game, even if it's at base upgrade, you can still push back enemies, the majority of the enemies in this game, even chainsaw guys. And you can imagine what they're going to do for probably Resident Evil 4 Remake. The inevitable remake is they're probably going to make the chainsaw guys unable to be pushed back with the shotgun. And how upsetting will that be? So yeah, I'm just going through, making sure that I have a full clip in each gun that I own, moving forward, the handgun and the shotgun. And now I'm just making my way through and being sure to knife all the bear traps, because I don't want Ashley to freaking run into one again, because that was so freaking upsetting. Which is why I sent her up the tower and I kept her there. Because I believe as long as you're down here defending her and making sure the enemies don't get close, they won't throw any torches up there, which kind of burns the whole tower down. Or at least forces you to jump out of the tower. If I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've seen that response from the AI, but just to be safe. It's always good to be safe on a no damage run. But yeah, folks, no platinum in this game. It's so upsetting. And the other thing that's upsetting too is that I kind of wish, even though we get pretty awesome costumes in this game, like you get the ability to unlock Leon's RPD uniform from Resident Evil 2, and you also get to dress as a gangster, which is really cool, because when you unlock the Chicago typewriter, Leon does a very cinematic reload, every 3 reloads if I remember correctly. And you just feel like a baller while doing it. But once again, you don't just unlock the Chicago typewriter, you have to save up for it. And of course, for the purposes of this run, for the OSP run, I can't use it because we are playing professional difficulty in New Game mode. We're not playing on New Game Plus. I mean, I don't believe you can even play that in New Game Plus for the first time. So I wanted to challenge myself, and thus I did the OSP run for professional, no damage. So coming up on this save point here, folks, I want to explain something. You're going to see me approach this save point once I'm done fiddling around with my inventory, adjusting my ammo accordingly, and you're going to see me save. And when I come out of the save, because if you remember, Ashley was put in the bin. But it turns out that when you die after the save and you reload the checkpoint, Ashley automatically is standing right next to you. So there's a little bit of a continuity error there that was not my fault. It was I swear, it was the game's mechanics. So just wanted to explain why there was an incontinuity over there. So I put Ashley back in the bin so that way she doesn't get harmed. It's always the best thing to do is put Ashley in that bin. And I'm just going around and killing all the enemies so they don't pose much of a threat to us. But yeah, going back to my costume comment, how awesome would it be to be able to actually wear Leon's coat for the entire campaign? I wish you had the ability to do that, and I know that there's PC mods out there that probably allow it. But Leon's coat is pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of the coat Rick Grimes wears in The Walking Dead. It's just really cool. And the ability to be able to wear that would be pretty awesome, in my opinion. So yeah, folks, making my way through the village, killing all the enemies that are there. There are 2 up there, if you can see. And I make my way to the right, because again, we're maintaining the utmost caution, making sure I don't walk into any bear traps. Because Shinji Mikami loves his bear traps. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do next after this, folks. I know that this morning I actually got a notification that my PC motherboard will be coming in on Thursday. And today is actually Saturday afternoon. So I'm really hoping that the motherboard arrives on time. It should be, because I've been waiting long and patiently for it, and it's actually a compatible motherboard with the Intel core that I have. So hopefully that'll be pretty cool. And I can finally join the PC master race, as they say. I say jokingly. But, you know, consoles will always be something that's in my heart, near and dear to my heart at all times, because consoles are all I had growing up, and I know that was the case for most people as well, getting to video games as kids. You know, especially in the early 90s and the late 90s, you know, all we had was the Nintendo. We had Super Nintendo, people had Sega Genesis, we had, you know, if people remember back then, we had Atari. That was probably one of the very first ones. And then, you know, Nintendo 64. The list goes on. The evolution of video games, the consoles just go on. But I know that with PCs, I've always wanted to build a PC. And I've always been excited to tailor it in a way so that way I can have a machine that does what I want it to do, which is really nice. And I highly recommend it for anybody who is willing to put in the time, put in the effort to build your own PC. Because it's literally, and I was talking with my friend about this, who is actually OmniGriffin. He told me that it's like adult Legos. And it's totally true, folks. It's totally like adult Legos. And I'm a huge Lego fan. I played with Legos all the time when I was a kid, and I loved collecting all the different sets. And what's funny is I would always set up the Legos. I would build them, you know, part for part, and set them up in my room all around the place, and I would not touch them. I just didn't want to touch them. I wanted to keep them in perfect condition. I wanted to keep them from being destroyed, and I wanted them to just sit there. Which is kind of boring if you think about it as a kid, but it goes to show that, you know, I was a little bit more mature for a kid than other kids were. In that regard, at least. Don't get me wrong, I was very immature as a kid, and I would do really stupid things, but one of the things being treating my possessions with like the utmost care is a characteristic I carry with me to this day. And, you know, if you ask my wife, she'll tell you that one of the things I'm very anal about and OCD about is, you know, DVDs and the cases and making sure that all the discs are back in the cases, and if it's a video game case, making sure it's in alphabetical order up on my shelf. And yeah, it's one of the things that sort of drives her crazy, but also, you know, we all have our own OCD things. The difference being with OCD is, you know, it's if it interferes with your everyday life. So for example, if I was late to work every day, and I know we're working from home, at least majority of people are working from home who are able to. I know there's restaurant jobs, there's service industries, and there's also the wonderful healthcare providers that have to go in every single day. You know, the first responders, the police department, there's the fire department, you know, everybody who has to go in and be on site and risk their lives, you know, with COVID-19 every day to help everyone. But side note, when, you know, I'm working from home, you know, even when I have this OCD tendency, it's more so just a tendency. It's not something that's, you know, a diagnosis. Because with diagnoses and mental health, they tend to be something that basically interferes with your functioning, your day-to-day functioning, and it puts a damper on your lifestyle, you know, a healthy lifestyle that you try to live, and trying to stay focused and live every day to complete all the tasks you need to, all the responsibilities you need to. And you know you have a problem when you can't do that effectively, when you are distracted by something. For instance, with, you know, let's say you have an addiction, you know, supposed addiction to video games, let's say. If you had an addiction to video games, you would be not able to put them down. You would do everything in your power to call off from work, not go into work, and play them 24/7. But there's a lot of people who don't do that. Yes, they love doing them as a hobby. They love doing them to get better, to become the best, or, you know, show some excellent gameplay. But the difference is they're able to step away and do something else and enjoy a different aspect of life. And this is this is hilarious right now. Ashley's waiting up there, you know, she's waiting for me to come and catch her. But I'm just sort of ignoring her as I'm going through all the crates. Sorry, Ashley, but not sorry. Anyway, you're going to piggyback her up over this gate, and she's going to do us a favor and unlock it, unbar it. So that way we can progress forward to an area of the village that we've never explored before. But yeah, folks, before I go back into my tangent about video games and people having really bad opinions about them, I want to really explain this part, because this is a very difficult part coming up. This is the village standoff with Luis, and it's a tough one, guys. I was here for a good 30-45 minutes, replaying, retrying before I was able to get it no damage. And the key here is, I believe if you kill enough enemies, you're able to trigger the end a little bit faster. And this section right now is entirely timed because you need to wait until Luis tells you to go up the stairs. And when he does that, that's when the second part happens. And that is when, I believe, it's all based on how many enemies you can kill. So you'll see me go up here. I use this as a choke point, the stairs, so that way I don't have to worry about guys with tentacles hitting me from behind. I don't have to worry about being grabbed from behind. But funny thing is, with being grabbed from behind, you don't actually take damage. If an enemy just grabs you from behind and Leon's doing his wiggle waggle to get out of it, he won't take any damage. So you can actually use that to your advantage a little bit. So anyway, you'll see me trying to keep these guys at bay. And there's actually a healthy amount of tentacle enemies here, which is a little bit obnoxious. And I'm basically keeping them at bay with the shotgun, while also interspersing them with a few grenades, especially incendiary grenades. As I mentioned before, incendiary grenades are atomic. They do a ton of damage in 60 frames per second. And it's similar to how the more frames per second there are, the frame rate in Resident Evil 2 Remake for the PC does. The knife does a shit ton of damage in that game too, by the way. It's a similar concept. The DPS increases as the frame rate increases in terms of the incendiary grenade. So I'm using that to my advantage. I'm still keeping these guys at bay with the shotgun, so that way they don't bum rush me. And so far we're still in phase 1. It's very important to keep yourself reloaded. So I'm going to do a kick, I'm going to reload. This is a perfect opportunity to reload, and I do reload. Perfect. You'll see Luis kicking ass down there. Now he's telling us to go upstairs. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because now we're going to have guys coming up on all the ladders, and you're also going to get guys coming up from the staircase. And Luis is kind of nice because he throws you a bit of ammo, he sometimes throws you a grenade if you're lucky, and he really helps you out. And what's pretty funny in this is that I never knew there was a cinematic event. If you shoot Luis enough, he gets very angry and he starts to kill you. Which I've never tried before. But I saw the cutscene of it, and that's pretty hilarious. Just because it's a video game, and you know, video games can be hilarious like that. So yeah, what I'm going to do here, folks, is I'm going to make sure these ladders are down at all times, and I'm going to keep looking behind me. Because just in case, there's going to be a lot of people coming up on the ladders over at the far end over there and to our right. So make sure you just stay on your toes, stay moving, and stay on top of it. Sometimes you won't get a lucky spawn like this. Because see, look, there was a guy right behind me, and luckily Luis was firing his gun at him. That does not happen every time, folks. This segment right here is probably one of the most RNG's segments of the game, but it's okay because the mechanics of the game work very well. So we forgive it. If this was 3 Remake, we'd be dead. We'd be dead already, 6 million times over. But what is interesting here is, look, there's hardly any guys spawning in. Luis is just standing there. Oh, there's a guy right there. Look at how lucky that was. You saw his axe. It probably took off a bit of Leon's little, hairstyle coming in front of his eyes there. Probably chopped off a good bit of that. But man, was that close. Holy cow. Now Luis says, man, this never ends. So I believe that's an indicator that soon this will end. But look at this. There's nobody coming. I got insanely lucky right here. Complete luck. There's no guys coming up on the ladders over there. There's no guys coming up behind me. No guys coming up the stairs. Luis gives me some more ammo, which is nice of him. And yeah, it's incredible. And now we finally get some guys. Look at how close that was, by the way. Another close call axe. Right by my face. Leon could probably smell the metal from that axe. It was so close to his nose. But yeah, this is a pretty tense section, but again, and there it is. That's the end. But again, guys, the checkpoint is kind of poo-poo in this. In the checkpoint, it starts with you just having entered the gate with Ashley, as opposed to just starting at the beginning of the village fight, of the cabin standoff with Luis. And you got to remember, though, folks, this game came out back in 2005, which is 15 years ago. 15 years ago since this game came out. And the checkpoints aren't very good in games like that. Yet the checkpoints exist in games like this, despite there being no checkpoints in the hardest difficulty on 3-make, which is so freaking frustrating. But anyway, folks, I'm just going around and making sure I didn't forget any ammo, making sure I picked up everything. Ashley's following us from behind, and we're getting to the section where we pick the two paths. And I'm going to say 100% right now, the path going to the left with the double chainsaw women, that's the better path. Unless you're very good at fighting El Gigante, which at this point I'm not very comfortable with that, especially with Ashley by your side. You definitely want to just put Ashley in a bin and fight all the villagers along with two chainsaw women. And it's much easier than going the El Gigante route. So that's my biggest recommendation on that. And of course, people could argue otherwise. People could say, oh, I feel better with El Gigante. Well, props to you on that one, because I do not. I don't feel good with El Gigante. So I go the villager route. Yeah, this is me dropping a save. And sorry about that pause screen for a second there, folks. The way I edited the video, I was not able to trim out that the pause screen for whatever reason. Blame it on my lack of editing skills or what have you, but hopefully with the new PC coming in, I'll have better editing software and I can easily cut and trim things off of footage that I have in future projects. So I'm very much looking forward to that. The other thing I'm looking forward to, folks, is as we're in this little bit of a lull right here in footage, in action, is I ordered a new headset with a new microphone because I'm getting a new PC. And I'm getting really sick of the PS4 mic. Don't get me wrong, it treated me very well. It has treated me very well all these years that I owned a PS4, and it gave me the opportunity to do commentaries and stream for the very first time I have in my life. So, I'm grateful I had it, but I'm now ready for a little bit of an upgrade. So, I ordered that on Amazon, and it should be here on Monday. So hopefully, maybe midway through this commentary, you'll notice a change in quality in the audio. And it's definitely going to be more comfortable for me as well, because talking with the one earbud stuck in my ear like this is a little bit uncomfortable, and having a full headset with comfortable headphones on both ears is going to be eons better. So I'm very excited for that. So yeah, what you see me do right here is, of course, I stick Ashley in the bin so she's in no danger and she doesn't take unnecessary damage, because if I take damage, folks, or if Ashley takes damage, it's a restart. That's just how it goes. Anybody in your party taking damage, it's a restart. Luis in the cabin standoff, luckily you don't have to worry about him, and he does not have an HP bar. And also, I believe I did not shoot him throughout that entire section. So you don't have to worry about him, being grabbed by an enemy, or him, being hit by an enemy. There's no HP meter on the screen. So, I mean, if you really want to get anal about it, maybe I would have to redo that village section, but I know I personally did not shoot Luis or touch him in any way, or violate his personal space in any way. So yeah, now I'm making my way up here. Ashley can stay in the bin for as long as this fight lasts, even when the chainsaw women spawn in, which is a very big plus. I love the ability to be able to do that, because running around with Ashley in this section is just a pain in the ass, as most people know who are familiar with this game. But yeah, folks, it's amazing how far we've come. I mean, my very first video game system was probably the Atari that I've played, because I know at my grandmother's house, she had an Atari. Well, correction, my dad owned an Atari, and he kept it at that home. And I loved the games on it. They were so simple, games like Pitfall, and games like, I believe you could play Space Invaders on it as well, or there was a shooter game on there where you were literally these blocks resembling a human, and you can play with a second player, and it's literally you guys standing across the screen from each other and shooting at one another. And it was so funny watching this, and it's hilarious seeing footage of this now and seeing how far games have come. But yeah, folks, growing up I had Atari, and then after that we got a Sega Genesis, and that's where I played the Aladdin Sega Genesis game, which I saw that they remastered, or not remastered, yeah, remastered. I'm getting remastered and remake all bundled up and confusing, but yeah, I'm getting those two terms mixed up. So. But yeah, no, they remastered it for the PS4 and current gen consoles, and I kind of want to go back and play that game, because that game was not a walk in the park. It was actually pretty difficult. And I know there was a SNES game, a version of that game, but I think they remastered the Sega Genesis version instead. So I want to go back and play that for sure and get all the trophies for that game on PS4. Because don't get me wrong, folks, even though I will build a PC, I'm still going to play certain games on console, because either they're going to be a PS4 exclusive, or I'm going to be very interested in getting trophies and adding to my trophy collection. And I know in the previous videos I was talking about retiring as a trophy hunter, and that is 100% true. I will, because I won't be going for all the achievements on the PC games that I play. Instead, I kind of want to go for these challenge runs and make things interesting for myself. Alright, so the chainsaw women come on in. That was very lucky. I got the iframes right there off of the ladder. I'm making my way back to the entrance of the location right here. And that's going to allow me to channel all the enemies this way, and I'll be able to just sort of control them that way. In a little, not so much of a choke point, but it's just nice to have them all come at you from the front rather than all around you. And the beauty of the shotgun is that the chainsaw women get pushed back. And everybody gets flinched, no matter what. This was a little bit of a concern right here, but luckily I was able to control it. And oh, look at that. See, she would have got me there from the right if I wasn't quick enough. That was a little bit of a butthole clencher. But we managed. And yeah, yeah, I really want to go back to playing Aladdin. That was a really fun game, and you know, you had to save all your apples for the bosses and use your melee weapons for the standard guards. It was a fun game. So, I'm using my shotgun, keeping these chainsaw women at bay. If I really wanted to and felt dangerous, I could have ran up and knifed them both, but it's been a while since the last checkpoint, so I don't want to take too many risks. But yeah, look at that, folks. You'll see how fast that I use shotgun ammo. And now I'm down to only 4 shells. So you really gotta be conservative with your ammo there. And be very careful. Especially with no upgrades on any of these weapons. Because they're pretty weak, and it becomes all about crowd management at that point, and running past areas. Especially in the castle. So yeah, there's a dude up there. He's got an axe or a pickaxe, one of the weapons that he throws at you, so I don't want to take any chances with him. So I'm peppering him down. Now he's up again, and he's going to throw that at me, but luckily I was quick on the draw. He's kind of standing in an obnoxious position there, but we head capped him. He's gone. We got a nice little head pop. And luckily no Las Plagas came out. And the music is over. Except for now, when it started up again. So when the music starts up again, you know there's an enemy around. So I'm looking for the rest of the enemies. I'm keeping Ashley in the bin. And I'm being very cautious, very careful. But yeah, Sega Genesis, I played, you know, that Aladdin game. I played, you know, the Sonic the Hedgehog games. They were so awesome on the console. I played the shit out of Sonic the Hedgehog back in the day. Especially Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. Those were my favorite out of all of them. And I didn't own Sonic and Knuckles back in the day, but I did play them at a friend's house. Not as much as I would have liked to, though. And let's see, after that, I think we had a period of time where we owned the N64, where I played a lot of Star Fox, which was so much fun. Star Fox 64, if you remember, folks, that's such a fun game. Do a barrel roll! But yeah, great moments in that game. Very classic. This is me whistling at Ashley like a dog. If anything was made like this in these days, this video game would not be allowed to be created. Just because of progression in society. But yeah. It's just so funny watching that again, you know, years later. You didn't think anything of it as a kid, though, back in the day. You didn't think anything of it as, you know, me being a white male, you know, playing this game, this little boy, you know, whistling at Ashley. I was just like, you know, I didn't think of anything of it. It was a freaking game, for gosh sakes. It didn't mean anything. But now people get so offensive over the little things. And it's very sad. It's almost like people want others to start an argument and say something just so they can have something else to say about them. So I stick Ashley in the bin again where she belongs, Kappa. And then I start taking down these folks over here because there's actually going to be a good amount of people coming at you here. And what makes me a little bit upset is I wish I didn't use as many grenades as I did in this point because I could have saved them for the Mendez fight coming up. Who's the chief of the village. He's the final boss of this area. And look at that. Holy cow. That was another close call. But luckily, folks, if you do take damage and you have to restart, the checkpoint is actually just right before you open that door after getting the key from the chainsaw women. So it's not too far back if you want to reload the checkpoint. But yeah, folks, with the way I separated the parts, the Mendez fight will be in the next part of this run. So you can look forward to that because I definitely use a lot of knife tech in that boss fight. Otherwise, I would have ran out of ammo because my guns don't do enough damage. and that's just how it is. But that's what makes the OSP run, the on-site procurement run, one of the most interesting, is that it forces you to learn those techniques. It forces you to learn how to kill bosses with knives, with the knife only. Or majority of the time with the knife, because I'm not going for a knife only playthrough. I'm going for, again, just an OSP playthrough. Weapons unupgraded, no buying new weapons on the shop, only using weapons you pick up and you don't upgrade them at all. So, as I explained in the earlier videos. But I loved it, that's the thing. I loved this challenge run eons more than my challenge run for RE3 Remake on Inferno, because this game is just so much more enjoyable. I was smiling the majority of the time I played this game, and it was so refreshing. The other part that was refreshing is having so many checkpoints. I adore games with checkpoints, and I'm so happy this game does checkpoints relatively well. But yeah, there's me whistling at Ashley to come out of the bin again. And we're just making our way forward while checking all the barrels for any ammo. The wooden barrels. I'm doing my double knife slash so that way a cheeky snake doesn't attack me. And we're moving on. And this section right here is sort of the deep breath before the plunge. This is where you realize you have to kill the chief of the village, Chief Mendez, and take his eye so that way you can get through the gate to get to the castle. But yeah, folks, what do you think they're going to do for RE4 Remake, if they do make one? I would much rather them remake Code Veronica than RE4, because RE4 is just amazing. If they remake Code Veronica, because I've heard mixed reviews about that game, but the reviews I hear the most is that Code Veronica is a bit too long of a game, and it sort of overstays its welcome. I've never played it myself, so I can't say anything based on what my experience is with the game, but this is purely what I've read and what I've heard people talk about. So maybe just sticking with Code Veronica could be a smarter decision on Capcom's part, because this game just doesn't need to be touched. If anything, if they make a remake of this game, just make the textures better. Make the environments better. Make the characters look amazing, make them look real life, make them look lifelike and just awesome. Maybe incorporate moving while shooting, but make us have the ability to shoot an enemy and use all the awesome melee moves that we can on them. And this is me sort of looking at the map to refresh my memory, because again, I played a shit ton of 3-make before this run, and that was sort of what my memory was at the time, and I forgot a lot of RE4. Which really breaks my heart, because this game is amazing, and I feel like everybody should know this game like the back of their hand. But with all games, with all your experience with games and just playing a variety of them, you're going to lose your memory on certain areas. And that's just natural. So yeah, I'm just looking around, making sure I didn't miss any ammo. And this starts one of the most charming sections of the game, where all you have to do is hit one of these guys once, and they fall over, and no damage is taken. Watch out for the guys to the right that are riding on the opposing lifts, and be sure to get the guy on the roof to the left over there. I think there's a few on the roof to the left. So that way they don't throw things at you, and that way the guy doesn't hop on top of your cart and starts bashing it down. I admit I was a little worried about this section because I don't have the rifle. But you don't need the rifle, folks. You can easily just one-shot these guys because the game is so well balanced. And they fall right over. And that's the section. And another mark of a good balanced game is when you actually return to go back to put the eye into the gate, is you don't have to do that section again. But if it was our Resident Evil 4 remake, which is probably going to happen, they would make you have to do that section again on the way back, which doesn't make any sense, because it'd be the same exact section. It would be boring. You would already know what to do. But because it's a balanced game, because this is RE4, you don't have to repeat that section again. It's amazing the little details in games, I tell you folks. The little charm you throw in games, the little features you make so that way it leaves us with a smile on our faces and just for pure enjoyment and loving them. So this actually is not recommended on my part. If you guys do your run, you don't have to go back here unless you really want the treasure. But the treasure is not going to do you any good on a run like this because you don't need to sell anything to buy more weapons. So it might be a good idea to just save your ammo and just progress on. But I decided to go for it because why not? I love this game so much. I love the exploration and just and I love how the exploration can reward you. So I go for it. But yeah, as we move forward with this run, as I keep talking about, you know, the rumors of RE4 remake, because again, they never announced a confirmation of this, folks. We don't know what's going to happen exactly. But I do hope that Resident Evil 8, when that is eventually released, is not in first person. And I really hope they bring one of the other characters back, because if they put Chris Redfield as the main protagonist, I feel like that's ridiculous. I mean, put somebody else in there. Put Jill in there. Put Claire in there. Put someone else that we adore. We're sick of Chris. Chris has been in all the games. I mean, he's been in literally almost all of them. So put someone else in. We're ready for something different, Capcom. But not something different where it's first person. Keep it in third person. Look at how your sales did for a Resident Evil 2 remake, for a Resident Evil 3 remake, and hopefully they get a good message from that. Despite Resident Evil 7 selling a lot, which is, oh, it's a shame. It's just such a shame. But people just aren't as critical as I am with games, and that's completely fine. I mean, the more enjoyment to you on that. So, all right, folks, this is the save directly before Mendez, the village chief boss battle. So what you're going to see here is I'm going to sell a bunch of unnecessary crap that I don't need, such as the TMP, which I'm never going to use on this run. So I sell the ammo. I also sell the herbs because this is a no damage run. There's no reason to heal. And I just go to town and sell all the treasures as well, because why not? And yeah, and that'll bring us to the end of part 3 of this run, folks. The next part will start with the Mendez boss battle. So yeah, once again, folks, thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next part, hopefully, and you all, take care now.